I am that person that thinks that leggings can be pants. That's why when making the Ylva sewing pattern, I mixed together the comfort of leggings and I added the flare so they would look more like actual pants. I hope that you will enjoy this sewing tutorial. This is a beginner-friendly sewing project. These trousers are comfortable like leggings because they are made of stretched jersey. There is a double yoke at the waist area for a nice support, and the bottom part of these trousers is flared. You can pick at which side you want to make a slit or feel free to skip it. I will be using the Ylva sewing pattern, which you can find in our Etsy or online store. The links are down in the description. This pattern comes in sizes from 2XS to 2XL. It is fairly quick to assemble this pattern since there are only 4 pattern pieces. Here are the notches for the slit, and it's up to you on which side you want to do them. By the way, on the front panel there is a guideline in case you want to make a decorative seam. If so, you need to cut the pattern here, add the seam allowance and later stitch these front details together and top stitch the seam. For these trousers you will need stretch jersey material. If it is stretchy like this, no worries about the zipper. But if you want to make them from a more thicker jersey that is less stretchy, then you will definitely need an invisible zipper that is 20 centimeters long. It can also be longer, and I will show you how to properly shorten it. You will also need a matching thread, and for extra stability at the waist I recommend using an elastic band which is 5 to 7 millimeters wide. I will use my 4-thread serger a lot, but in case you don't have it, check out the description below. There is a link to a video showing what sewing machine stitches you can use instead. And now let's start with the cutting. Remember that those yoke details have to be cut on fold 2 times. Also, don't forget to mark the notches for the slits. This time I will mark them with a marker instead of making small trims inside the seam allowance. And right away, as our first step, we can neaten this part for the slit. You can do it by a serger or sewing machine's zigzag stitch. Or even better if your sewing machine has this fake overlock stitch. If your material requires to use a zipper, then let's also neaten the zipper seam area. If your material is very stretchy, then simply skip this step. Now all of us, lay the trouser's back panel with front panel right sides facing each other. Pin the outside leg seam. If you are making the zipper, then remember to leave that opening and stitch from that opening to the hem. But if you don't have the zipper, then simply stitch from the waist area to the hem. After that, let's press the seam allowance towards the back panel. Use the curved edges of the ironing board to press the hip area. Lay the back and front panels with the right sides together and stitch the inside leg seams. But leave the part for the slit unstitched. Always be extremely careful to take out all the pins before stitching with the serger, otherwise it can damage the knife and the needles will be flying around. When it comes to securing a serger stitch, I prefer to use a tapestry needle with a big eye. I thread it with serger threads and then hide them inside the seam. Take one of the legs and flip it from the inside out. Now place it inside the other leg so the right sides are facing each other. Start by matching the inside leg seam and then pin the crotch seam. Make a stitch starting from one edge up until the other edge at the waist. Flip that one leg out and now it's starting to look like trousers. Let's move on to prepare the waistband. If you aren't using a zipper, then stitch together both side seams for all waistband details. If you are using a zipper, then stitch one side seam on opposite sides for both waistband layers. After that, press the seams towards one side. Now all of us lay the waistbands with the right sides facing each other and stitch the upper edge. If you are skipping the zipper, you will need to stitch around. If your material is lighter than mine, I highly recommend to stitch on elastic band on top of the previously made seam. Use a sewing machine zigzag stitch so it would still be elastic. This will ensure that seam at the waist will not overstretch and will keep the shape over time. At this point, we need to understitch the inside layer of the waistband. Be very mindful on which side you left the opening for the zipper on trousers. So here as well, just take a moment to understand which is the inside layer and which is the outside layer. So let's make a stitch 2 mm apart from the previously made seam while also catching the seam allowance. Here as well, I would recommend to use a stitch that has more stretch compared to the regular straight stitch. Personally, I prefer to work from the right side because then I can see very well the distance from the previously made seam. However, when I was only learning to sew, I found it more comfortable to work from the wrong side because then I was sure that I really caught the seam allowance. When you have finished understitching, press the edge in a way that the under layer isn't visible from the outside. If you aren't doing the zipper, then at this point place the waistband's right side with the trousers right side and stitch around the raw edges. For the zipper option, take the inner layer of the waistband and neaten the lower edge. Lay the trousers right side with the upper waistband's right side. Pin around and stitch. Press the seam towards the waistband. Change the sewing machine's presser foot to the zipper foot. Now you will need to match the trousers right side with the zipper's right side. Just be careful to match the correct parts of the zipper. So open the zipper first and the side that goes towards the left goes towards the trousers left side. Start by pinning down the zipper to the trousers. I prefer to pin it down in a horizontal way because then the zipper doesn't slide in a vertical direction. Start by making a stitch 4 mm apart from the edge. In this way we will secure the zipper in place and then it will be easier to properly stitch it. While we are here, let's make another stitch right next to the zipper's teeth. Take your time, the closer you will get to the teeth, the more invisible the zipper will be. However, be careful not to stitch on top of the teeth, because then it will be impossible to close the zipper and you might destroy it. Stop the stitch 2 cm above the notch. Close the zipper and mark on it the placement of the waistband seam. In this way, it will be easier to perfectly stitch the zipper on the other side. Open the zipper and match the marked line with the waistband seam. Pin it first and then pin the rest of the zipper. Work in the same style as previously. Start by stitching around 3 to 4 millimeters apart from the edge and then make another stitch that is way much closer to the zipper's teeth. Remember to stop stitching some 2 centimeters above the marked notch where the zipper should end. It's important to leave that opening so we can take the slider through it. And here we can check out that the waistband seam has matched together pretty well. To close that opening, let's make a stitch starting from the previously made stitch down to the serger stitch. I will warn you that it is quite difficult to stitch exactly on top of the zipper stitch, so it is totally fine if your stitch starts some 2 to 3 millimeters apart from it, and it will smoothen out by pressing. But it is very important to end the stitch on top of the side seam stitch. When wearing these trousers and opening the zipper many times, eventually the slider will start cutting the threads of the side seam. To avoid this issue, let's secure the lower part of the zipper, so the slider cannot even touch the side seam. I will be using a zigzag stitch with a high density. Be careful to slowly test the stitch before to make sure that the sewing machine's needle isn't hitting the zipper's teeth, to avoid breaking the needle. Oftentimes, it is difficult to find a matching color zipper in the correct length, so here I will show you how you can shorten it. Cut off the excessive part of the zipper by leaving some 2 centimeters hanging. You can use the same fabric as for the trousers to fold it over the zipper's edge. Since my fabric is quite thick, I will use a silky ribbon. Cut it 2 centimeters longer than the width of the zipper so you can fold in the raw edges. Before stitching, I will press down those raw edges so it will be easier to attach it to the zipper. I really like this method because even with the perfect length zippers, they sometimes have an itchy feeling finishing. It is nicer to the skin and also in cases if you are wearing stockings under the garment. Probably not under these trousers, but for skirts or dresses it saves some headache. Pin the zipper in the middle of this ribbon and make a stitch 1 millimeter apart from the folded edge of this ribbon. Fold the waistband in a way that the inner and outer part right sides are facing each other. Make sure that the zipper's ribbon is staying on the wrong side of the waistband. Stitch 7 millimeters apart from the raw edge. Do this for both side seams. If you are finding difficult to get sharp edges on the waistband, flip it from the inside out and trim off the excessive fabrics on the corners. To finish the waistband, let's do stitch in a ditch method. Pin the inner waistband to the outer waistband in a way it lays completely flat. Also, it should be covering the seam to join the waistband with the trousers. After that, I recommend to hand stitch the lower edge of the inner waistband. Use the regular needle and a thread and make some rough stitches around the waistband. Work from the right side and make a stitch almost on top of this previously made seam. Do not stitch on the waistband. It is better to go further towards the trousers because the waistband panel will later hide this stitch. If you accidentally stitch on top of the waistband, then this stitch will become much more noticeable. Here you can see that we almost cannot see the stitch we just made. Also, the inner layer of the waistband is nicely fixed. We are very close to the finish line, so we just need to only hem the trousers. Start by neatening the hem allowances. Now take the part where the slit is and fold the same allowance in a way that the serger stitch isn't visible. Pin it down all around the slit zone. Stitch 7 mm apart from the folded edge. Start from one side of the hem and then stitch around the slit and then stitch to the other side of the hem. Remember to repeat this step for the other slit on the other leg as well. To stitch the hem, simply fold 2 cm of the hem allowance and stitch around. Press the hem and the slit. Also give some final press over all these trousers and you have finished! If you enjoyed this tutorial, please leave us a like. That would really help us to make more videos like this. And subscribe to our channel for more sewing and knitting tutorials.